Getting ready to step into your career era? Set yourself apart with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Hone your skills with apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and more, powered with the latest in creative AI. Students save over 55% so you can build a portfolio you're proud of. Launch your future with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Visit adobe.com/students to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
This is the Stone Zone with Roger Stone.
People love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
You are now entering the Stone Zone. Well, in a graphic example that what goes around comes around, a federal appeals court has now dismissed the $454 million civil court judgment that President Donald Trump had previously been liable for, in a huge victory for the president and a huge thumb in the eye to New York Attorney General Letitia James. Letitia James, you will recall, charged President Trump under a state law for which no one had ever been prosecuted, claiming that he had overvalued his assets in order to secure commercial real estate loans, which he paid back on time and in full, at the same time paying $40 million in interest to his lenders. This ridiculous number came from the notoriously biased Judge Arthur Engoron, who essentially declared Trump guilty before the trial even began and said from the outset that the only question was not one of the innocence or guilt of the Trump organization and Donald Trump and his adult children, but how much they would be required to pay. Not long ago, Letitia James thought it would go quite differently. Let's listen to the Attorney General.
And that is why I will be honored when I walk into that courtroom on October 2nd. Well, my role is civil. But I will come back before you soon with a check for $250 million. And to let you know that he is no longer allowed to do business in the state of New York. Yeah, we've got a special charge to show up and stand up for one another.
Yeah, this is kind of ironic in view of the fact that the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, campaigned for the office of Attorney General, promising voters that she would get Donald Trump even prior to fabricating this charge against him. President Donald Trump declared victory in this matter on Truth Social today, saying the amount, including interest and penalties, was over $550 million. It was a political witch hunt in a business sense, the likes of which no one has ever seen before. This was a case of election interference, the president wrote, by the city and the state trying to show illegally that I did things that were wrong, when in fact everything I did was absolutely correct and perfect. So the lawfare industrial complex of the Democrats is falling apart before our very eyes, and now the state has them under investigation for their fraud and deceit. What a stunning turn of events this is. Democrats are realizing that karma is real, and now they are forced to publicly atone for their treasonous and illegal behavior. Nobody who colluded against Trump should consider themselves safe. He has the receipts. He knows exactly who screwed him, and well, now it is indeed payback time. But this isn't about retribution or revenge. It's about rebalancing the scales of justice, and therefore there are bad days ahead for Letitia James. Not only is she the subject of a civil suit by Trump, who is claiming that the charges against him were rigged. That is a serious proceeding in itself. But her entire career has been gifted to her in an act of pure privilege, largely as a result of the DEI mandates. But that house of cards is falling apart around her. James' scheme against Trump all failed, and now she herself is under investigation for the corrupt acts that she arrogantly perpetrated when she falsely believed that she was above the law. She's no longer shielded for her crimes after efforts to destroy Trump and keep him out of office for a second term were unsuccessful. So the Department of Justice announced a federal grand jury investigation earlier this month based on the aforementioned civil fraud case that James filed against President Trump and his companies in 2023. It is believed that James violated the rights of Trump and his adult children in rigging the verdict. However, it is James' behavior involving billions of dollars in illicit money that was funneled to terrorists under her watch that could dwarf all of this. You see, the Standard Chartered Bank of New York allegedly hid over $9.6 billion of illicit payments to sanctioned or terrorist-affiliated entities in Iran that were not previously disclosed, nor were they part of a sanctions settle agreement that the bank had made previously with the United States. Bloomberg reported that the FBI is now investigating this matter. They knowingly and frequently violated the bank's obligations to self-report. Whistleblowers produced over 40,000 emails that showed that the Standard Chartered Bank currency trade records over several years, which the bank denied existed, confirmed these transactions. These funds eventually were found in the hands of entities connected to Iran and Hezbollah, allegedly used by China to buy illicit Iranian oil with U.S. dollars, another violation of U.S. sanctions. But here's the key. The staff of Attorney General Letitia James was made aware of the scandal in 3 separate meetings in 2024, but they looked the other way. Her neglect in this case is criminal in nature and must be ruthlessly exposed and, I say, prosecuted by the Trump administration. A huge example must be made of Letitia James. We will be all better off when this truly repellent woman is out of the public eye and when she stops saying that no one is above the law. Well, no one is above the law, but unfortunately for her, that includes herself. As we now know, Deputy Attorney General Ed Martin has been sworn in as a special counsel to investigate the serial 22-year crime spree of mortgage fraud conducted by New York's Attorney General. Later in the program, Joel Gilbert, writing for the Gateway Pundit, joins us. Joel Gilbert has written extensively on Letitia James and the mortgage scandal, which the folks at Bloomberg and some of the other mainstream media outlets would like to just go away. In the meantime, the Department of Justice Attorney Ed Martin has called on another public official accused of mortgage fraud to resign. DOJ Deputy Attorney General Ed Martin, who's been designated as a special counsel to look into mortgage fraud by New York Attorney General Letitia James, as well as Senator Adam Schiff of California, has now called for the Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook to resign following credible allegations of mortgage fraud, specifically a letter of referral sent by the head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, Bill Pulte, to the Department of Justice, pointing out that Lisa Cook, the Federal Reserve Board governor appointed by Barack Obama, claimed in 2 different states to have a principal residence, one outside of Atlanta and the other one outside of Baltimore. You cannot have 2 principal places of residence in order to get a state tax break as well as a lower mortgage rate in both cases. So Martin has called for Lisa Cook to resign. He implied that the Department of Justice is now investigating Cook over the alleged fraud as well. Deputy Attorney General Martin wrote the following in a letter that has been made public. As we begin any investigation of conduct like that of Ms. Cook in the referral, I will likely be required for confidentiality purposes to remain silent about our investigations. However, I will answer any questions you have to help you make a timely decision to remove her. Cook reportedly signed a mortgage. It was an agreement on a property in Ann Arbor, Michigan, stating that that was her principal residence. Then 2 weeks later, she signed yet another mortgage agreement on a Georgia property right outside of Atlanta, also claiming that that property was her primary residence. The Federal Housing and Finance Administration Director Bill Pulte issued a letter to the Department of Justice that caught Attorney Martin's attention on Cook's purported fraud. She ought to have some dignity and resign, and so should Federal Reserve Board Chairman Jerome Powell, who suppresses interest rates through a central banking institution that candidly has outlived its usefulness. It is amazing to me that the Federal Reserve, which is very specifically supposed to use two measures to determine whether interest rates are cut, unemployment and inflation, ignores the fact that today, under Donald Trump's second term, those measures are either at the same point or substantially lower than they were the last 4 times the Federal Reserve cut interest rates on the American people. So it's very hard to understand on what basis they continue to refuse to cut rates. This would greatly affect the economy for those seeking to pay off their credit cards or those seeking to buy a home or a car, and would boost the already strong economy into the stratosphere. It's Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Board chairman, who's playing politics, not President Donald Trump. My opinion here, it is up to Lisa Cook to do the right thing and resign. There's a Wall Street Journal editorial today criticizing the head of the Federal Home Finance Agency, Bill Pulte, saying that he's the one playing politics. This makes no sense to me. Nowhere is it written that the federal mortgage laws are only applicable to people who aren't Democrats. And in this case, whether it is Adam Schiff, the senator and former congressman, who did the same thing, claiming principal residence in both California and Maryland, getting a tax break from both states and a lower mortgage rate and a lower insurance rate, or whether it is Letitia James, who lied about her principal residence, claiming that she would own or inhabit a residence in Virginia in order to qualify for a mortgage in that state. A little bit later, Joel Gilbert, writing for the Gateway Pundit, is going to join us to talk about that case. So it is clear that we have two standards of justice here, and now the Democrats are screaming bloody murder along with their fake news media allies when there is one standard. It is very clear that this administration will not tolerate mortgage fraud or any other crime by those elites who think they're above the law. Meanwhile, Tulsi Gabbard announced a 50% cut in the office of the Director of National Intelligence. That is getting rid of bureaucratic waste and redundancy while axing officials who are not sufficiently loyal to this administration. Director Gabbard said of the decision, over the last 20 years, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence has become bloated and inefficient, as well as being rife with abuses of power, unauthorized leak of classified intelligence, and politicized weaponization of intelligence, adding that the bureaucracy will be restored to its core mission to find the truth and provide objective, unbiased, timely intelligence to the president and policymakers. Director Gabbard, who I think is one of the most impressive people I've seen in American politics, called her plans the Office of the Director of National Intelligence 2.0. She's already on her way to eliminating over 500 staff positions and reducing the office's size by 30% since being appointed to the office by President Trump. She's hoping to get that number up to 50%, which would be a savings of over $700 million annually for the U.S. taxpayers. Her cuts will neuter the Foreign Malign Influence Center, an entity set up to analyze data to protect democracy, which, according to the office, was used by the previous administration to justify the suppression of free speech and their censorship of political opposition. You're tuned in to Roger Stone right here in the Stone Zone. Whatever you do, don't go away, because we have more hot political news when we return.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the Stone Zone. Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back in the Stone Zone. The Texas House of Representatives have passed a new congressional redistricting map that will give Republicans 5 more safe House districts in next year's midterm elections. The new maps were passed by an 88-52 vote, will now go to the Texas State Senate, where they're expected to be immediately approved. President Trump called this a big win for the state of Texas, and the reason he says that is the new redistricting map are based on the census only counting actual U.S. citizens. You see, in many states like New York and Illinois and California, they have counted non-U.S. citizens in the census for the purposes of congressional redistricting. That's just called gerrymandering. It was invented by the Democrats, was actually named for a Congressman, Eldridge Gerry of Massachusetts. He was a Democrat. And this follows a massive showdown between Texas Republicans and Democrats. Democrats in the legislature fled the state for weeks in an attempt to impede the proceedings and prevent Republicans from implementing their redistricting plan based on a lack of a quorum. Prior to Trump, the Republicans would have thrown in the towel. But in America's first MAGA Republican Party, well, the Republicans stood strong, and they're making moves to remove the Democrat lawmakers from their seats if they did not return and do their jobs. This caused the Democrats to blink and quickly return home, setting the stage for the redistricting rules to be passed by the lower house. It's actually refreshing to see Republicans finally go on offense and refuse to capitulate to the whining, crying tactics of the Democrats. This is the change that Donald Trump has brought, an aggressive new Republican Party, a party of the middle class, the party of working people, the party of the non-elites. It is refreshing. I think we should have congressional districting based on a census across the country that is based only on counting the heads of people who are actually U.S. citizens. I can name you state after state where Republicans have at least 40% of the registered voters, but congressional redistricting has been rigged against them, which is why you have the current breakdown of the U.S. House. The next congressional district in the upcoming election will be far more competitive, and you heard it here first. I actually expect the Republicans to gain, to actually expand their thin margin in the House. That would be antithetical to the historic trend, but then everything about Donald Trump is different than it has been in the past. The only thing predictable about Donald Trump is he's completely and totally unpredictable. You're tuned in to the Stone Zone right here on the Red Apple Audio Networks. Joining me next, Joel Gilbert, documentary filmmaker and investigative journalist, is going to give us the latest on Letitia James and her deepening problems. Whatever you do, don't go away. Don't touch that dial, because we'll be right back in the Stone Zone.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Got a car to sell but no time to waste? Hop on to Carvana.com to get a real offer for your car in seconds. All you have to do is enter your license plate, answer a few quick questions, and if you accept the offer, Carvana will pay you as soon as you hand the keys over. They even offer same-day pickup in many cities. Save your time, score some cash, and sell your car the convenient way to
Carvana.
Pickup times vary. Fees may apply.
Talk about stepping up. Bang! Bang! It's time to level up your game. Introducing the all-new ESPN app. All of ESPN, all in one place. Your home for the most live sports and the best championship moments.
The electricity is palpable.
Step up your game with no annual contract required. It's the ultimate fan experience. Level up for more on the ESPN app or at stream.espn.com. Sign up now.
To you, my darling.
No, to you.
The Roses were living the dream.
More champagne for me, please.
Until it all came crashing down.
He got fired. Fired?
From the director of Meet the Parents.
You're a failure. Women don't like that.
If you need a shoulder or an inner thigh to lean on.
On August 29th.
I just want the house.
We want everything.
Wow. Stop.
Stop!
And see The Roses.
These people.
The Roses. Rated R. Under 17, not a minute without parent. In theaters everywhere, August 29th.
Your burger is served. And this is our finest Pepsi Zero Sugar. Its sweet profile perfectly balances the savory notes of your burger.
That is one perfect combination. Burgers deserve Pepsi.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the Stone Zone. Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
And we're back in the Stone Zone. Joining me now is the filmmaker, musician, and investigative journalist, Joel Gilbert. Now, Joel, I tried to look up your bio on Wikipedia. I had trouble stopping laughing to start this show because it is so ridiculously absurd. It actually says, this article is an autobiography, has been extensively edited by the subject or someone connected to the subject. It may need editing to conform to Wikipedia's neutral point of view. This is laughable nonsense. Wikipedia, at least my biography, is full of distortions, lies, and absolute falsehoods. Appears to be the case in your case as well. Joel Gilbert has produced several films. He is also a noted musician and a great fan of Bob Dylan. His tribute band, Highway 61 Revisited, actually very, very good and made me interested in his multi-dimensional career. Probably his most famous film, Dreams of My Real Father, is a biographical film that those on the left have called a conspiracy theory. Well, they're wrong, but Joel Gilbert is right. Joel, welcome to the Stone Zone.
Great to be here, Roger. And yes, Wikipedia is a left-wing hit job. And no matter what you do, they will try to make you look bad. But I think the people know better by now what's really going on.
Yeah, it really is an absurdity. You can go to Wikipedia and correct the various things they say about you that are incorrect, and then you wait a few days, you go back, and they have been returned to the sea of falsehoods that is Wikipedia. I want to focus on Letitia James because I guess this kind of proves that what goes around comes around. Letitia James led a tsunami of lawfare along with her cohort, Alvin Bragg, the district attorney in New York County, which is Manhattan. So far, there are a number of convictions of Donald Trump in those proceedings, but this victory today is a very large one. A federal appeals court basically throwing out a several $100 million judgment against Donald Trump. And then you and Sam Antar over at whitecollarfraud.com have done an incredible job of exposing Letitia James' crime spree of 22 years of mortgage fraud. For those who aren't familiar with it, Sam Antar, who has a very interesting past himself. He was once convicted in one of the greatest security frauds in U.S. history, the whole Crazy Eddie saga. Crazy Eddie was an electronics firm. But Joel did his time, paid his debt. Sam did his time, paid his debt to society, came out and reinvented himself as a fraud investigator extraordinaire. And then Joel Gilbert, who is a very experienced documentary filmmaker and an investigative reporter, teamed up with Sam Antar in a series of blockbuster exposés on Letitia James. So, Joel, before we get into the Ayatollah Zoran Mamdani and the way he has illegally weaponized nonprofit organizations to cheat in the recent New York mayoral primary, you've written a great piece about this. I want to focus for a little bit here on Letitia James. When you examined her record when it came to mortgage fraud, what did you find?
Well, New York is a public record state, so I just went online. Anybody could have done it at any time. And I found that she had a 43-year history of fraudulent mortgages. She did not do one mortgage purchase or refinance in New York that did not involve fraud. It began when she was only 24 years old. She pretended that she was married to her father in the document in 3 places. She signed it so that her father, they bought a property as husband and wife, no doubt, so that Letitia could get better mortgage terms from the bank. She probably wouldn't even qualify. She pretended to marry her father. Lo and behold, as you go through time, the biggest fraud is her purchase of a 4-story, 5-unit apartment building in Lafayette Avenue in Brooklyn. And there it showed a series of mortgages and refinances where she consistently claimed that the building only had 4 apartment units, even though the official certificate of occupancy said it had 5. And the biggest fraud that I focused on in my first article back in March was her she had a adjustable rate mortgage that was 10% in 2011 with a private bank, and she decided to refinance it on the back of the American taxpayer through the HAMP program out of Washington. And to get that loan, which was only eligible if your building was 4 units or less, she lied and said she had only 4 units when it really had 5. She also lied and said she had a financial hardship, which you were required to have, even though she was making about $14,000 a month. So I chronicled this in the Gateway Pundit, and I wasn't surprised a couple months later to see Bill Pulte from the Federal Housing Finance Agency, I believe, used a lot of my material to refer her to the Department of Justice for an investigation. Since then, Ed Martin has been appointed a special prosecutor. As you noted with today's news, the pendulum has completely swung against this fraud that was Letitia James, who ran for office on the disgusting proclamation that she would target an American citizen if elected and find a crime to charge him with, something that even in the Soviet bloc and third world countries, they don't even say that out loud when they want to do that. So the pendulum has swung, and Trump has been completely exonerated in his appeal. And Ed Martin is, if you look at his Twitter every day, the special prosecutor, it looks like Letitia is going to be charged. He's already asked her attorney, Abby Lowell, to have Letitia resign. That's how bad it is. So it's been an amazing few months to watch the pendulum swing against the fraudulent Letitia James.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I saw this great picture. First of all, I saw you and Sam Antar. You guys are like the Batman and Robin of fighting mortgage fraud crime. I saw you visited the facility where she had 5 units, but claimed she had 4 in order to qualify for a particular type of mortgage, an advantageous type of mortgage. And then I saw very recently that Ed Martin, the Deputy Assistant Attorney General, now Special Counsel investigating mortgage fraud, showed up to inspect the same building, but he was wearing a trench coat. I'm not sure if he's more Inspector Clouseau or whether it's Columbo, but I have to admit I kind of liked the look. And I feel a lot better that this is now being looked at from the point of view of the law enforcement, taking a hard look at crimes by people who previously thought somehow they were above the law. I made reference earlier to the Standard Chartered banking case. This is an extraordinary case in which the bank already got caught violating the Iranian sanctions, paid a fine for it, and then went right back to the same code of conduct and did over $100 million in prohibited transactions and transfers to sanctioned institutions, including those in China as well as Iran. And there is hard evidence that Letitia James and the Biden Justice Department were fully aware of these violations, but did nothing whatsoever about it. So this money's been traced. It ended up in the hands of Hezbollah. It also financed illegal purchases by China of Iranian oil, yet another violation of sanctions. Letitia James, I think, has some serious explaining to do. According to Bloomberg, Kash Patel's FBI is now investigating Standard Chartered Bank and these series of crimes, which I think I would say even more serious than this mortgage fraud crime spree. It is amazing the way the pendulum has turned. I ultimately believe that the other judgment against Donald Trump in Manhattan, the so-called hush money case, where Donald Trump entered into a confidential settlement in a harassment lawsuit, but Alvin Bragg decided to charge Trump without ever identifying a crime. Of course, you had the Soviet-style show trial there in Manhattan, finding the president guilty on 39 counts. I'm confident that that, too, will ultimately be overturned, and the president will be entirely vindicated. Let's shift, if we may, now to a great piece that you have in the Gateway Pundit, in which you question the outcome of the recent Democrat primary in New York City, which was won in an upset by Zohran Mamdani. Your piece, also relying on the excellent work done by Sam Antar at whitecollarfraud.com, says, what if the grassroots of political movements reshaping America's cities aren't really grassroots at all, but rather illegal, tax-exempt, charity-funded operations disguised as community activism? As you point out, Sam Antar, in his July 2025 article, How Elite Money Flows Through the Working Families Party Network, forensic investigator Sam Antar, who was with us yesterday, exposes a hidden financial web that he calls grassroots laundering. It's a case study you wrote in the rise of Zohran Mamdani in New York City politics. You go on to say, what Antar uncovered is a political machine powered not by working-class donations, but by a $2 billion network of tax-exempt nonprofits that illegally converts taxpayer money and billionaire philanthropy into political power. Tell us what happened here, Joel.
Okay, Sam Antar basically exposed something that's been going on for many years. He says that the entire leftist campaign infrastructure is actually illegal under the tax code. And he goes through all these ways that it's done. And here's how he explains it. He talks about how, first, you have tax-deductible funding, and that's when billionaires and the U.S. government gives hundreds of millions of dollars to these charities, these 501c3 charities that are not allowed to engage in political activities. These charities then transfer their money to their affiliates that are 501c4s, and they are allowed to engage in political indoctrination. They often have very similar names, like Make the Road New York gave all this money to Make the Road Action, which was a political entity. So then the 501c4s funnel the money they got from the charities into these PACs and super PACs, and they fund political campaigns like Zohran Mamdani's. Then someone like Mamdani gets elected, and he expands the government funding to the very charities that helped elect him in the first place. Now, you may have seen that Lee Zeldin, the EPA administrator, just came out with a big expose yesterday that the entire Inflation Reduction Act was just a way to fund all these climate and other Democrat NGOs and charities to then launder it back into the political system. So Sam Antar pretty much exposed the whole thing with a massive study that really could be the groundwork for a tax IRS case against Mamdani and all these NGOs, because the entire operation is tax fraud.
It is a stunning article. You can go to whitecollarfraud.com, whitecollarfraud.com, or go to the Gateway Pundit, look up Joel Gilbert, excellent coverage of what is an extraordinary scheme which blurs the line between charity and politics. I think it undermines the very foundation of our campaign finance law, and it's very clever, but it really cuts against the entire fake narrative that Mamdani's campaign is some kind of people-powered revolution, that this is a grassroots revolt against dark money and special interests, when, based on what I'm reading here in your article, Joel, the exact opposite is true.
Right. All they did is they moved government funding for charities to political arms without anybody noticing, and then used it to fund these far-left politicians. And then Mamdani runs around saying, this is a people's movement. This is a grassroots revolution. Join us. But in fact, most of the money comes from this scheme of laundering charity money, especially through the U.S. taxpayer. You and I have been paying for Mamdani's campaign because the government funds these NGOs. So I think Sam Antar just did a great job. I've never seen it laid out so expertly. And with the revelations from Lee Zeldin, I think the Trump administration and the IRS are going to have to take a look at this whole leftist campaign infrastructure. It goes back to Act Blue. It's just been going on for years and years, and I think this is the first time that anybody really laid it out and put it all together so succinctly. So definitely go to whitecollarfraud.com. You've got to read this piece by Sam Antar.
Yeah, the president has called for an investigation of Act Blue, which is the Democrat payment processing website. And I have already seen some of the initial research, which indicates that of those Letitia James donors who have been able to be contacted, almost 70% of them deny ever having made a contribution to her, deny having made multiple contributions. I think there is yet another case here. She's one of the number one recipients in the country of small multi-dollar donations through Act Blue. This is, I think, going to be yet another legal case she's going to have to fight through. She's not the only one, though. There's a number of major Democrats. Remember, you heard it here, folks. Here first, folks. Act Blue is the next big Democrat scandal. But we appreciate you joining us today, The Stone Zone. We're talking to documentary filmmaker and investigative journalist Joel Gilbert. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. We have a new tracking poll in the New York City mayor's race that I want to go through with you. Don't touch that dial. We have more hot politics for you right on the other side.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the Stone Zone. Now, get in the zone. It's the Stone Zone. Here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. We're talking to investigative journalist and documentary filmmaker Joel Gilbert. We've been talking about a couple items here. First of all, the turn of events in which Letitia James is now facing at least 3 federal investigations. I predict to you soon to be 4. In an incredible turn of events, Donald Trump's $454 million civil court judgment was overturned by a federal appeals court, which many have predicted for some time. But now the hunters are now the hunted in an extraordinary turn of events. And then Joel Gilbert just outlined for us a succinct summary of the outstanding research done by Sam Antar over at whitecollarfraud.com, who outlined how a very complicated scheme that matches political organizations with allegedly non-political charities were weaponized to move millions of dollars around to create the candidacy of the Ayatollah Zoran Mamdani. An incredible turn of events. Here's a new overnight tracking poll by Kaplan and Associates. This is 1,000 likely voters in New York City. As of this morning's latest returns, you have Mamdani, the Democrat nominee, at 35%. Andrew Cuomo, running as an independent, former Democrat governor, at 21%. Curtis Sliwa now finally moving up from 19 to 20%. And the incumbent mayor, beleaguered Eric Adams, running as an independent, dropping to 13%. That leaves 11%, I believe, undecided. This race continues to be extraordinarily tight. You'll notice that Mamdani, although he is the Democrat nominee, has not been able to even approach 50% of the vote, which is the juncture which a political professional would consider him safe. As of last night's tracking poll, Eric Adams had the highest unfavorable rating I have ever seen for a public figure. He had a 69% net unfavorable rating. which was 48% very unfavorable. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo was clocked in at a 57% net unfavorable. That was 41% very unfavorable. And Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa at a 43% unfavorable. But Zoran Mamdani at 41%. So the only candidate who has steadily gained through all of the Kaplan tracking polls has been Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa, still in an overwhelmingly Democrat city, a very long shot, but perhaps more viable than the other candidates in this race. In any event, I want to thank our guest, Joel Gilbert, for joining us today and laying out how exactly Zoran Mamdani, who I refer to as the Ayatollah because of his position on the Intifada and his calls for doing away with cash bail, for defunding the police, and yes, he said it, not me, raising taxes on white people. Again, he said it, not me, has gone into a lead position here in the New York City mayor's race. I want to thank you, Joel, for joining us today in the Stone Zone. And for our listeners out there, thank you for joining us every day, 5 days a week in the Stone Zone, where we talk politics, news, history, culture, and food. And we always try to bring you the stone cold truth. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?